I was playing guitar in a band called Lover Boys, and we lost our bass player due to unforeseen circumstances, and put an ad on Sydney Musicians Network on Facebook, and Ryan hit me up and we traded a few tracks and we had a chat, and in the end, like, it didn't work out to play for Lover Boys.
I think Ash had a post up, and I responded to it. And because I played bass originally, I've played bass for years since I was a young fella. And
I had to listen to some of Ash's stuff, and it was I was looking for a guitarist for myself, and it was pretty much to poach someone from another band anyway, because I couldn't really find anyone at the time. And Ash and I started talking, and I sort of threw off and said, I'm not really interested, even though they had some pretty cool stuff. And Ash was like, well, I play guitar, and your lead single that you've got there is pretty cool, so we sort of exchanged numbers.
Let's go back to the start when we met, my dear.
But I've known Jason for like 4 or 5 years or something. We've sort of had some garage bands in the past, and we worked on probably nearly an album together, and some sort of a bit more rocky sort of stuff. I just sort of had no bass player either, and rung up Jason, and Jason's like, yeah, I'm interested. So
It's sort of all snowballed from there, and we've come to this kind of cool little project that I sort of started in my bedroom after long days at work, and just writing some stuff on my acoustic.
It took a little while, but we got there.
In June, I dropped the debut single from our EP that's actually coming out January 12th, 2018. It's called Heavy Heart, and we were pretty fortunate enough to pick up a few little playlist features through Spotify Australia, and they chucked us on Local Noise playlist, which has been awesome. I turned this EP into something I'm pretty proud of, and influenced by bands like Alkaline Trio and Rise Against, Jimmy Eat World, and a bunch of many others that I couldn't even tell you about, to be honest. There's that many influences over the years, but it's a 5-track EP, and there's been a clip for Heavy Heart, and we've got a clip hopefully pretty soon coming out for On My Knees.
If you're following us, we're on Instagram as Hatakaze the band, and Facebook Hatakaze the band. And if you're not following us, you should follow us. But if you are following us, you should come along to the gig, because it's going to be so much fun.
I've been playing bass for a while now, and I remember my first bass. I got when I was 13, I think. It was a Yamaha 5-string RBX. It was silver. I love that bass, and I played that. It wasn't the most expensive instrument. And I kind of really just learnt on it. And I really learnt, from the ground up, from watching guys on YouTube, and from listening to favourite CDs and stuff, and just learning what I heard, and that enabled me to then get passionate about my instrument and what I was doing, and through that I then decided to invest a bit more, and I wanted to go out and get a proper bass amp. And I remember I was walking through town, and I was just in like one of the cash converter places, and there was this beautiful SWR bass rig there, and a big 410 cab with this big shiny grill, and I had to have it, and it had this big cigarette burn in the top of it and everything, but it just looked so badass. So I bought that with all the money that I'd saved up that year, just from stuff after school, and through that I just played with that, and that was my rig, and I used to make up. I'd kind of get other bits and pieces together, and whatever I could, I was just making leads out of whatever I had at home, and really. I love that rig. So I've still got it to this day. It came with a head, but The head, unfortunately, has not lasted. It blew up and it was just too expensive. I kept taking it into the music shop to try and repair it and keep it going forever, but it's had its day. And then after that, I then purchased a Fender P-Bass, a 57 vintage reissue. And I love that bass. You know, I've seen a couple of guys that I like playing it in the music videos and stuff, so I like the aesthetics of it from that. But then I really went into the shop and I sat down and really like tried to really hear with my own ears what I liked and what the sound was that I wanted. And the P-Bass for me really had that kind of tonal qualities that I really enjoyed. So I purchased that, and that's just been my go-to bass. I play it all the time. Since then, I've purchased a new bass recently. I got another Fender. It's a Dimension bass, Fender's new line of Dimension. I had to get a 5-string again, just to kind of link back to the early days when I had that Yamaha. And so I've really got diverse in my equipment now, and I can definitely play all kinds of styles. I've just kind of really thought about my equipment purchases and purchased things. I run an effects pedal, which, I mean, bass, sure, a lot of guys run effects, but it's also very common for bass players to not really have many effects pedals. But I've kind of got a nice little drive unit and a wireless setup, and I get some really nice tone out of that, a little bit of overdrive and some compression and stuff, and it works really well for my setup. So yeah, that's kind of been my story of bass.
When I started out, I played bass too. Growing up, I think it was about...
He's a screamer.
Yeah, but 14, my 14th birthday, Mum and Dad took me down to Cash Converters, and I saw this wood grain, natural finish Yamaha bass guitar, an RBX 350 4-string, and I think it was like $240 secondhand, and I've still got it, actually. I'm not going to lie, I still use it for demos at home, and it's awesome. I pulled it out of the cupboard the other day, gave it a clean down, and it plays as well as it played when I was 14 years old. And I remember Dad had this like 2 6-inch speakers in this crappy box, and he brought that home, and there was our next door neighbour. We had this cool next door neighbour, and he was a bit of a muso as well, and he had this crummy old PA amplifier. I think it was from like the 60s. It's probably worth a lot of money now, and I threw it out. But and I just plugged into it, turned it on, it worked, and my brother played drums, and we had this bucket drum kit. We literally made a bucket drum kit, and a good friend Tom, who lends us all his gear now because he's invested a lot of money and time into his music gear, he had this crappy little 10-watt Aria with an Ashland guitar, and that was our first band. It was like a punk band. We just listened to Blink-182 and Sum 41 and any band that sort of played pop punk. That's what we did. And then growing up, I've played in a few new metal bands and a couple other bands, and had the opportunity to play with a few cool bands along the way. And I upgraded my gear, and I ended up with a Ernie Ball Music Man Stingray 4-string, and started off with Hatakaze with the mind frame of playing bass. I've had Fender Jaguars, bass guitars, and Fender Jazz Deluxes. I love Fender, I love Ernie Ball, and sort of after a while with this project, I moved on to guitar and recruited Jason on bass. And I bought a Fender Telecaster, a 72 Deluxe Chris Shiflett model, plays for the Foo Fighters. And someone had unloaded the stock pickups and put some Seymour Duncans in it, and I saw it in the shop, and it had the right price on it, and I've never looked back. Rosewood neck, I love a rosewood neck. I'm not really too partial on any sort of board, but for some reason it feels great, it sounds good, and like I said, I've never really owned guitar amps, so I've lent on one of our good mates who helps us out a lot, and he's got a lot of Marshalls and stuff, and that's sort of our tone at the moment is Marshalls. So I kind of thought about getting an amp and having the big rig, and I thought, stuff this, I'm gonna get a rig that I can use in the studio at home or in the studio, when we go on track. So I bought myself a Kemper digital profiler, and that thing has been the best thing I've ever bought in my life. I think it's any amp you want, any cab sim you want to put on it, and by the time I got a pedal set up and an amp and cab set up, that would have taken up a lot of room in the corner of my studio. This Kemper's done the same thing, and I couldn't be happier with the product. I think I've played more guitar since I've owned this Kemper in the last couple of months than I've ever done. So, you know, I can only thank them enough for making me a better guitarist, which isn't saying much. So, yeah, that's my story anyway. Started off bass and now I'm playing guitar terribly in a punk band.
My first electric guitar was a Samick Warlock that I got in 1992. That's right. That my parents bought me. And I've had a lot of shit gear between 1992 and 2015. And currently I have a Vox AC30 that I play with a 1962 Tele Deluxe, I believe. I don't really know what I play.
I think it's a US standard.
Yeah, it's just whatever it is.
With
It's a Telecaster. Yeah, and I've got a couple of pedals that I run. I got a couple of delays, a chorus, and a compression pedal, and a pardon me, a Mesa V twin pedal, and that's pretty much it. Like I'm not really a massive gearhead. I don't really get into different sounds or anything. I just
keep it simple.
Yeah, I just tune it in. It does the same thing every time, you know, and there's so much you can do. There's so much fucking gear out there. You can do whatever you want.
And spend
with
as much money as you want to. It's crazy.
Yeah, like you can spend $20 on a pedal, you can spend $1,000 on a pedal, and they kind of do the same thing. And I'm in the in between level. Don't ask
$25 pedal.
Yeah, don't ask me questions about gear because I don't know that much about it. I just make a few sounds with
Yeah,
what
that's
I've
it.
got.
Just play.
Yeah.
Just get into it. If that's what you want to do, and you're a young fella and you're starting out a band, don't worry about all those pedals and all that money because you don't have it. No, but it's true. You know, like you kind of want to be like your idols and you want to play what they play. But you get there eventually, especially when you start making your own money.
You got to start somewhere, and if you know you want to get a certain sound, you can spend $20 on like a distortion pedal and try and get that sound, and when you know exactly what you want, then you can go and spend a lot of money on it. Like it's not a big deal. Like
just play, man.
You know, at the end of the day, nobody gives a fuck about what you're using to get your sound. Like you can, like we said, you know, you can spend $20 or $1,000, and to get there, it's whatever. Please take that away from me.
If you want to play music, be dedicated. Spend time with other kids who also want to, you know, similar interests.
Connect. Like these days, you got the internet. When I was like 13 years old, I'm not going to tell you how long ago, but yeah.
School,
like,
man.
Find the people that are interested in the same things that you are in school. Don't be afraid to like ask people, like, you know, go to music class and say, hey, who wants to start a band? Like,
yeah. Well,
school's a great place. Like I remember I was like the first 2 or 3 bands I was in was like it was the other guys that listened to the same kind of music in the class.
On Fridays we used to get to jam all day and get pizza from the Christian fucking kids because they'd have a lunch. Did somebody just fucking fart?
Yeah, it was you.
No, it wasn't me. It was fuck.
Yeah. Anyway, so
find people that have the same interest at school, and if not, get on the internet. And stay away from the creeps, because there's lots of creeps.
There's a lot of creeps out there. We're finding out now.
Yeah.
No Harvey Weinstein.
Sometimes like if you can't find a player, like just find someone that you think might make a good player and just get them an instrument.
Yeah.
Learn this.
That's what we did with you.
Yeah.
Was it you or was it him? No. Well, when I went to school, like I had a big brother. He played drums, so I was lucky. And then met a couple of guys at school and a couple of guys through friends from school that went to a different school, and then we just sort of stuck at it. You know, you've got to stick at it. You've got to stick at your instrument, learn scales. They're massive.
If you want to have fun, you've got to fucking work to have more
of course,
fun.
Of course.
It's not. It's pretty straightforward. If you want to play the fucking good shows, you got to rehearse the fucking ass off, which is like a lot of time and money and fucking blood, sweat, and tears to get to the good shows.
Yeah, a lot of patience.
Like, you know,
you've got to you got to work with other songwriters if you want to write songs, and you got to keep writing songs. Because when I first started writing songs, I was absolutely terrible, and I went through a situation in my life where it was a pretty big turn of events for me as a young fella, and I started writing songs, and I'd show my parents, and I'd show my friends, and they'd all laugh, and not so much my parents, but you know, I knew that it wasn't very good, but I knew it was something that I wanted to do, so I persisted. And then as I got older, I bought myself gear, and you know, I try and work with better musicians. Always try and find someone that's better than you, and just stick to them, because when you work with people that are better than you, it makes you better. So just involve yourself around other people.
Yeah.
If they're older than you, they're older than you. If they're younger than you, who cares?
And you know what?
you know.
Don't ever be afraid to like show people your emotions and let people know like how you're feeling through music. Like get out there and fucking play it. People are gonna laugh at you and tell you you're fucking shit. They're always gonna do that. But
Yeah,
you
for
just
sure.
got to keep going and going and going.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean,
have a crack. Have a fucking crack, mate.
yeah, pretty
That's
much.
it.
I mean, if you put everything you got into your songs, like if you listen to the songs that are coming out on this EP in a couple of weeks, a lot of it's pretty dark. You know, there's lyrics in there that are, you know, I hope are relevant to a lot of people, because we all go through certain things in life, and just wear your heart on your sleeve, man. You know, I do it every day. Sometimes it's a blessing and a curse, but yeah, just put it out there. Have some fun, man. You know, jam,
And
suck at it.
Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Like,
Of course,
we've all done it.
We're
Like,
still doing it now.
We'll write a crappy song and you know, and we'll still give it a go. Like, you gotta let ideas kind of naturally grow, and you never know where something might come from. It might come from something that you think that has no hope, and then all of a sudden something magical can come out of that.
Yeah,
So
a cool riff,
yeah,
melody hooks, you know, those little things. Look for those little things. I think a guy I used to play in a band with, he's used to say when he writes songs, if he could put three hooks in a song, then he'd have a good song. So, you know, obviously, whether it's a guitar riff and then it's a good vocal melody and the drum beat's really solid, or, you know, everything sticks together. If he could find three hooks for a song, then he'd have a good song. And that always stuck in the back of my head ever since I was about 17, 18 years old. And I try and implement that in my songs too. You know, what would people want to hear? What sounds good to the ear? What complements what part? You know, and that all comes down to your basic songwriting. But when you're young, have fun. Don't be afraid to suck. It's always going to start out that way, and you know, eventually you will get better. Just persist, and persist.
yeah, put the time.
But
That's it.
make sure you fucking piss your neighbours off with really loud music, because that is the be all and end all
Yeah.
of starting out a band.
We've all done that.
Yeah.
Annoy them, and your parents,
Yeah.
and your sister, and your dog,
Yeah.
and Nana. Annoy Nana.
No. No.
Your Nana's long gone.
No, my name's still here. My name's still here. Fuck it up.
Sorry, Nana Clemens.
Yeah.
10 years time. Shit.
Oh, I'll be
I'm
like
like
50.
thinking 3 weeks in advance here. 10 weeks.
Where are we going to be in 10 years' time?
New York City, Nashville,
Jason will still be late.
London, LA.
Jason might not be there yet.
I don't know where, but ever since I started this project on my own in my bedroom, I always saw big things for it. You know, I shut my eyes and I can see big stages and big crowds, and I think you got to dream big to make it big. You know, you got to have a vision, and you got to have a plan, and you've got to stick to that plan, and be strict, and you've got to be committed. And it's all about who's with you. You know, I figured that out after a while, that if you've got the right people on your team and they share your vision, we can all push and drive. So in 10 years, I'd like to see, if I'm honest, I'd like to see it in the next 2 years. But if I'm honest,
I haven't grown up yet.
10 years still selling records, because it's hard to come by these days unless you're Bruno Mars or Lady Gaga or Britney Spears or someone like that. But yeah, pushing records, touring the world would be a dream. Writing good records and working with huge producers that are gonna, you know,
Still having a lot of fun doing.
yeah, of
Still being
course,
mates.
that's what it's all about.
Yeah,
Oh, being
yeah.
mates for sure.
Man, it's a fucking, like, the be all and end all of all of this is like playing cool tunes with your mates.
Yeah, of course.
And it's a
fun.
joy every
But-
time, whether you're playing live or in a
Yeah.
rehearsal or in the studio.
And when there's 10,000
10
people
years.
singing back to you.
yeah, and in 10 years, fuck my life. If you could have 10,000 people
Ash will have a
singing
walking
back
frame.
to you, I'll be like 60, but I'll be playing music to
Yeah.
10,000 people,
Well-
and that would be really cool.
Where do you see it? Doing albums, you know, playing with your
Yeah, get
mates.
some albums out.
we're pretty lucky. Like right now, we've found some good friendship in such a short time. So if we can punch out a few albums and do a few cool tours,
Write some cool music.
I mean, that's the dream, and that's just the luck of the draw. But whether or not it happens, we've got to. It's up to us. At the end of the day, if we want to work hard for it, we can make it happen. I'm sure. I have enough belief inside here in all of us as well that
nothing's hard really if you put your mind to it.
Yeah, put your mind to it. I mean, look what we've done in 6 short months. We've scored a few good supports, and we've had the opportunity to work with Fleur de Lis Productions pretty soon in the near future on our new video clip.
And you know what? Like, it's these small things that make everything worthwhile and pump it up to the next level.
And hopefully we'll be sitting on the couch again talking about StiX'n'Strings.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.